pen named Dana Baxter, who works at Essence Communications. She called. She didn't invite me. She told me I had to come to speak tonight, and I thank her for her continued friendship and her consistent ways. When I graduated law school at Michigan, I knew I wanted to run for Congress before then. And my dad was my predecessor. If you ever seek political office, it never hurts to have a parent who was in the office before you decide to run. My dad had served for 22 years. And I announced for Congress the Saturday before Easter in '96, right down the Mississippi River in Memphis, right downtown. And like most people running for office, I was awaiting invitations to speak at dinners like this, to speak before business groups, to speak before all the companies that are represented here and those who've sponsored tonight. I was hoping that labor organizations, the Links, other women's organizations, teachers, unions, all of the organizations, environmental groups, civil rights groups, neighborhood organizations, I was hoping that all of these great groups would invite me to speak, just to give me an opportunity to share why I wanted to run. Not one invitation came. We spent the first part of our campaign, I say this to the kids just to give you a little sense. We spent the first part of our campaign just trying to create places to go. So if we heard there was a big event going on at the Marquis Hotel, the equivalent of that in Memphis, I'd been right outside shaking everybody's hand as they walked into the room. Not having been invited, but just shaking hands. We found our way to shopping centers and bowling alleys and supermarkets. But shortly after I announced, I had to go back to school, take exams, and come back to Memphis after taking exams and graduating. I showed up in my headquarters, just assured that because I was an announced candidate that I'd have more invitations. We had none. We continued our strategy until about the third day. Miss Jackson, my elementary school principal, a good link in Memphis, Miss Lee, came running into the office and she called me baby. She said, "Baby, I have some good news." I said, "Yes, ma'am, Miss Jackson." He said, "I've got you 35 graduation speeches." I looked at her with great glee and relief because I'd finally been invited somewhere to speak. I said, "Miss Jackson, that is wonderful news." I grabbed the 4 or 5, we didn't have much money in the campaign, grabbed the 4 or 5 people who were working with us, a lot of them were young, about my age or younger, and I said, "We need to be smart and systematic about this." I said, "We had to go out and grab all of the voter registration forms from all of the libraries and all of the other locales where they keep them. And we had to go and down to the election commission and grab even more, because although I won't be able to politic from where I'll give my speech for these graduations in schools, I'll be able to encourage them to vote and encourage them to register." Miss Jackson looked at me, she said, "Baby, these aren't high school graduations." I looked at her and said, "It must be middle school graduations. We'll still go and get all of the voter registration forms, because there'll be people who may need a change of address. There may be older siblings, or there may be parents there who've moved, and you just never know. We want to be prepared." She said, "Baby, these aren't middle school graduations." I said, "Miss Jackson, who I had loved since I was a child, she was the only lady principal who paddled me when I was in school. I still loved her to that day." And she looked at me and she said, "Sweetie, I got you 32 kindergarten graduation speeches." I did the math real quick, Howard, and I realized that there were 3 others. I said, "Well, Miss Jackson, what are the 3 others?" She said, "Baby, I got you 3 elementary school graduations as well." Now, for the life of me, I wanted to be angry. Barry Salzberg, I couldn't get too angry because I had no other place to be. I hadn't been invited anywhere, so I had to be thrilled, at least look thrilled, to be going. My dad, who was a congressman, came home parts of the week when Congress was out, and he would travel with me around to some of the various events, and he would ride with me to these graduations. I'll never forget, I was going from Roselle Accelerated Elementary School in Memphis to Valentine Elementary for kindergarten graduation. Every day on the radio, they would call into the radio, my opponents would, and say the most awful things about me. So I never had a job, which I hadn't. That my dad was giving me a graduation gift from law school by helping me get elected to the Congress. That I had no idea what would be going on in Washington, and I couldn't stand up and represent the interests of people. And on and on, and that was the kind stuff they were saying. It just went on and on. This particular radio show, we're riding and we're pulling into it. I remember it like it was yesterday, pulling into this long incline of a driveway at Valentine. And looked at my dad. I said, "Can't we get somebody to call in and say something nice or positive?" He said, "Don't do that. If people want to call in and say something nice, let them do that. But let's just wait. We've got 2 months before the primary. Let's just keep working hard." I said, "It's easy for you to say. Nobody is saying anything bad about you on the radio." But we went right ahead and we pulled into the driveway. And no sooner than we got to the top of the driveway, this lady called in. Not done about half of my graduations at this point, so I was about on 18. Lady called in and identified herself as a grandmother and said that she listened to this show every day, come to love it, respected the DJs, loved their show, loved the content of the show, and they said something back congratulating themselves and thanking her. She said, but you know, I've listened to you talk about that boy every day. She was talking about me. And she goes, up until yesterday, I was not going to vote for him. I believed everything y'all said about him. And they said, well, what made you change your mind? She said, yesterday, I went to my granddaughter's kindergarten graduation. She said, I walked in, and there he was standing up there, and he got to talking. He said, no sooner than he started talking, every one of the kids fell asleep, but that didn't stop him. She said he kept talking and talking and talking and talking and talking, and when he finished, he shook hands with all the kids. He gave them their diplomas. He took pictures with them, took pictures with their parents, their grandparents, took pictures with me. And they said, well, you're going to vote for him because he did that? She said, no, I'm going to vote for him because I saw him go back in the kitchen and shake everybody's hand back in the kitchen and pose for pictures with the janitor staff and do the things that I think congressmen should do. I say to the kids as I close, I never thought that speaking at kindergarten graduations would amount to anything. I just thought I was honoring wishes of Miss Jackson, who I loved and who had worked hard to get these graduations for me. After that lady hung up, there were ladies that called in every day. I became everybody's grandson in the race. Everybody called and said, I was at my grandbabies, I was at my nieces, I was at my sons, I was at my neighbor's elementary or kindergarten graduation. And it was the moment that was least likely to produce any momentum. Everybody in business and professional life, there's some moment we can point to where things turn and where things changed. Even the least likely of circumstances. I never would have thought that it was that in many ways would have given me an opportunity to begin to live out a dream of mine, which was to serve to serve the public and to serve in public life. You all have been given a set of amazing opportunities and surrounded by people who not only love you, but have committed themselves to you by investing in you. The things that you've learned at home, the things that you've learned at relatives' homes, or for that matter, in places of worship, you'd be amazed at how these things come back in life to benefit you. You'd be amazed at all the little things that your parents and that your teachers and that those who believed in you and the mentors that are part of the various companies who introduced you tonight. You'd be amazed at all the little things that they suggested and the little things that they told you over and over again, how much that pays off. I'll never forget my mother's mother, who didn't get out to 5th grade, who wouldn't let us spend any more money than we had. Wouldn't it be good if some of our friends in politics operated the same way, even some of these bankers here in New York? Wouldn't it be great if the little things that our dads and our granddads taught us, the things that we sometimes take for granted, about how we should treat people, if we applied that in everyday life, not only in school, but where we work and wherever you go on to work. I say to these scholars this evening, the world is before you and awaits you. You've been given a great and awesome set of opportunities, and for that matter, people who love you and want to see you achieve and do well. 40 years this evening of achievement, 40 years of recognizing recipients, aiming for 40, getting 52, because of the generosity of many here this evening, all because they believe in you and believe in your future and want our future to be enriched by your success. I say to you this evening, we're proud of you as we are the achievers. We can't wait for you to move on and continue to do great things, but more importantly, we will be watching you. For your success, in so many ways, your sacrifice will spell the kind of success that not only you have, but those around the globe will have, and those who come behind you. And whether it's